It's time for another health update. Now, this is kind of lengthy, but I'll make it as short as possible. So I've been dealing with shingles outbreaks off and on for most of my life. Seriously. I mean, I had my first outbreak in the early 80s. So I've had them, by now I've had them just about everywhere you can possibly have them on your body. And in the last 6 years, they've presented in either the eye or the ear, which is very scary because the number one reason for needing a cornea transplant is shingles. So I really don't want to have them in my eye. And they have been pretty good, or they were, in Colorado about giving me the antivirals that I needed. However, it then moved to my ear. And I thought, well, good, I won't go blind. This is not fun. It hurts. I've had this, a bunch of times in the ear. And the first time the ear, nose, throat doctor took one look at me and said, you've got shingles in your ear. So, I've been arguing with them about antivirals, and they don't want to give them to me because they can't see the outbreak. Well, I talked to the doctor here in California, and they said, well, we have to send you to the ENT. The ENT demanded that I go to the audiologist first. So I went to the audiologist. The audiologist said, you have nerve damage that has resulted in hearing loss. That made me very angry because antivirals are not expensive. Why did they damage my hearing? Because they wouldn't give me enough antivirals. Okay, fine. And she said, by the way, because I knew it was hurting, she said, you've got some pressure difference behind the eardrum, and it would indicate that it is inflamed. And it looks to me that inflammation is going all the way down into your eustachian tube. Well, that is exactly where I was feeling the pain. And like I said, this whole thing started when I said, I'm having another shingles outbreak in my ear. I need some antivirals. And they said, oh, no, you've got to go to the ENT first. Well, it's a long, involved process, much like this story. I'm sorry. So I'm waiting to see the ENT in about 2 weeks. Meanwhile, these shingles are getting far worse, very painful, and they won't give me the antivirals. So about, let me think, 2:30 in the morning, I wake up in excruciating pain. I mean, I am in absolute agony. Every muscle of my body is cramping. I can't move. I'm like, like somebody has sent a shockwave through me of electricity or something. And I've got excruciating pain on the sides of my stomach, my abdomen. It's like somebody had just stabbed me with a knife, on both sides. And what that is the adrenal glands on top of the kidneys. And this was an adrenal crisis. By the way, if you want some more details, here we go. I'm losing everything from both ends, okay? I am not a happy camper. Major migraine headache. Everything is going wrong with my body. All of the red flags are flying. So obviously this is an adrenal crisis. So I got my emergency injection, which thank goodness I have plenty of. I've got plenty of the vials, I've got plenty of the syringes, and I'm shaking so bad, and because of the crisis and the cramping and all of that I could hardly draw up my syringe. But I finally got it, and within a couple of hours, I was much better. So I sent a message to the doctor through the patient portal this is my endocrinologist now, to let him know that, hey, I just had an adrenal crisis, and it's really bad. One of the worst I've had, but I've had this kind of severity before. Nothing new. So you're supposed to let your doctor know. Actually, what you're supposed to do is go to the hospital. However, no hospital has an endocrinologist on call in the emergency room. And if you get there, If you're there with something normal that they're used to, like diabetic problems or something like that, they can deal with it. But my situation is so rare, they don't know what it is. I go to the triage nurse and I tell her I'm having an adrenal crisis, and she says, well, take a few deep breaths and calm down. And I have to explain, while I'm in crisis, that this is not a panic attack. This is a potentially deadly drop in cortisol. And, I can't educate people when I'm in the middle of a crisis. I can barely, function myself. So going to an ER is not a good idea because it's a waste of time. I have the medications here at home. I know how to treat myself. So if I know how to treat myself, I can do it at home, save the time and energy and the cost and the headache and heartache of going there and dealing with people that don't know what to do. I mean, it's very frustrating. So my question to the doctor was, you've got me on this new steroid now. For 6 years, I had been on a steroid that I had to inject. Now I'm on an oral one. Thank goodness. I love it. It's much better. So I said, okay, what is the stress dose on this? This was Friday afternoon, by the time I was coming around enough to get this done. He did not get back with me. So I had another adrenal crisis and had to give myself another one of my emergency injections, which is a different kind of steroid. But it did get me out of it, and I wasn't suffering, and I didn't have a heart attack or go into a coma or die, obviously. So that was good. The next day, same thing. I am, sending all these messages through the patient portal to him and getting no answer. I really would like to know, I've got shingles. Does that mean I need to stress dose? I've never had to before. I mean, it's been bad, but I've never had to stress dose because of it. Do I have to now? And if I do, what is the stress dose on this new medication? So he didn't get back with me, so I contacted the Kaiser Permanente doctor on call. And she says, well, I'm just a regular family doctor. I really don't know much about this. But I don't think you're supposed to stress dose unless you have surgery. Well, I knew that was wrong. I mean, even if you Google it, it says stress dose for sick days. It doesn't say stress dose for surgery days. It says sick days. I mean, I've been through this enough years I got a good handle on this. I know that I'm supposed to stress dose. I just don't know what the dose is. So I said, okay, fine. If I were to have surgery and need to stress dose, what would the stress dose be? And she says, I don't know. Oh, what a waste of time. This is why I don't go to the ER. This is what you get. I'm on my own. So, okay, fine. So I talked to my mom, who has been through these adrenal crises and all this with me, particularly after I had surgery last year. And we were in 3 different ERs in 6 days. Yeah, and she saw that they don't know what they're doing, and it's worse. I just better off stay home. Okay, Monday morning, my doctor calls, or the nurse from the doctor's office calls and says, yes, you need to stress dose for shingles, and this is what the stress dose is. And she told me, okay, great, thank you. And then I had an appointment with the endocrinologist on Tuesday where I told him. The doctor on call said I didn't need to stress dose, and I knew that was wrong, but I didn't know what the stress dose was for this. And you probably have already told me, but I forgot. And when you're in adrenal crisis, you also have brain fog, in addition to all these other things that are going on. Like you could think, right, when you're cramping and throwing up and having diarrhea and shaking like a leaf and have a migraine headache, who could think under those situations, right? But another thing is that, and this is one of the first symptoms, and if I had been awake, I would have noticed, you get very severe brain fog. It's like to the point where I was in a grocery store and I needed sour cream, and I was in the dairy section, and there were these little round containers, and I knew that that was either cottage cheese or sour cream, but I couldn't read. I couldn't read. I could not make out what those little letters said. because I had such bad brain fog. Now, that makes you wonder, how the hell did I get home, right? It was scary. But I did make it home, and it was close by, thank goodness. And somebody in the store helped me. But that's, I had a lot of brain fog. So that's long story short, trying to make it short. So I didn't know what to do, and he told me. So now at least I know I am on the stress dose. The antivirals. I asked him, I said, can you give me antivirals? Because this whole thing was precipitated by a shingles outbreak. And he said, yes. And I went, thank God. So he wrote a script for antivirals that I was supposed to pick up today. Notice I said supposed to. Oh, there's always something. I swear to God, Murphy lives with me. So I went to the pharmacy, and I had even gotten a text. Your prescription is ready. Okay, great. So I go to the pharmacy and I say, I've got 2 prescriptions to pick up. One of them is this, one of them is that. And she says, oh, we've only got one. I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, oh God, please let it be the antivirals. It was not. They said, no, we shipped them to you instead. And I said, I need them today. Like, I'm out of the antivirals. And by this point, I'm starting to cry. Because I'm thinking, you guys are going to send me into another adrenal crisis. And honestly, that is so miserable. Nobody wants to feel like that. And it takes so much out of me. It takes me days to recover from that. So I got pretty upset. And thank God the pharmacist took pity on me. And he figured out a way to make it look, like it was a, vacation fill. So he could feel like if I was going on vacation or something, to get me through to the time when it will finally come through in the mail. Unless DeJoy, who's in charge of the post office, decides to lose it. I am so frustrated with the post office. My oldest son's birthday is July 2nd. I know, I digress. And I sent him a card like a week before his birthday. He still has not gotten it. I am so upset. I mean, thank God I didn't send him a present, right? Oh, so frustrating. Anyway, I finally got my antivirals. I finally started taking them. And I'm starting to feel a little bit better. So I wanted to make this video because I know there's a lot of people on social media who have asked and have been concerned, and I just have not had the energy to sit there at the desk and answer everybody. You know how it is. It takes sometimes half hour to an hour to get through everybody. I just don't have it in me. So this is it. This is the update for everybody. This is what I've been going through. And again, I see the audiologist in about 2 weeks. I should have enough antivirals to get me through. But what really makes me mad is the nerve damage and hearing loss. I mean, the audiologist said start saving for a hearing aid because you're going to need it. And this could have been avoided if they would have simply given me the antivirals. And I have said so many times, if antivirals were opioids, I would understand your hesitation in prescribing them. If they had a value on the black market, I might understand as well. But neither are true. Yeah, you can take too much and damage your liver, but I know that. And I know how much is too much. And what I've been prescribed is nowhere near. This is more, vital, because the liver can heal itself once you stop taking things and clean yourself out and aren't on the antivirals. My hearing is not going to repair itself. The nerve damage is permanent, and it could have been avoided if these doctors had listened to me, just like the heart attack I had in 2016. That could have been avoided too if the doctors had listened to me when I told them that I was exhausted and had no energy. They said, well, that's because you're depressed. I'm not depressed. I don't have anything to be depressed about. I have a lot to look forward to. I have a lot to live for. I'm not depressed. Oh, you must be. So they kept throwing all these drugs at me until I had a heart attack, ended up in the hospital, and they said, oh, you don't have enough cortisol. You have secondary adrenal insufficiency because you don't have a pituitary gland. Why did it take you guys so many years to diagnose this? Does the word gaslighting ring a bell? So I'm sorry to ramble. But I'm very frustrated and very angry about this hearing loss. It could have been avoided. And because there is no more recourse as far as medical malpractice, you have to be either dead or permanently severely disabled, like in a wheelchair, brain damage kind of thing, before you can even get a consideration. I won't get any win or any settlement for this. So anyway, that's my tale of woe, and that's the update. Thank you for watching.